Morning, good morning. We've just gone 10 o'clock, so we'll get this meeting underway of the Community and Services Committee. Very good morning to you all. Nice to see you all again. To our councillors, Cody Tucker, Barry Bruce, Matt Wong and Lisa Guy. Morena, I hope you all had a nice, enjoyable Easter. To staff, nice to see you all again. I hope you all had an enjoyable Easter. To media who might be out there, thank you for taking an interest. And to Dave Winterburn, stepping in for Ken Bailey this morning, our General Manager of Community and Services. Morning to you, Dave. So, let's get underway. Oh, Sarah Brady, our Governance Officer. Most important, good morning to you. And I hope you had a nice Easter weekend on the coast. No sandfly bites? A lot? Rightio, apologies. We do have an apology this morning from Councillor Whitehead. She's unable to be here, Esther. So we do need a resolution. We need a mover and a seconder that the apologies from Councillor Whitehead be, or the apology from Councillor Whitehead be accepted this morning. Do we have a mover? Councillor Tucker. And a seconder? Councillor Cobb. In favour? Aye. Carried. Thank you. Declarations of conflict of interest. Any conflicts of interest around our heavy agenda this morning? No? Thank you. Matters lying on the table. We have no matters lying on the table. We have no one from public forum to speak to us this morning. We just need confirmation of the agenda, that the agenda be confirmed without addition or alteration. Do we have a mover? Councillor Wong. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bruce. All those in favour? Carried. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Community and Services Committee on the 22nd of Feb. Resolution required that the minutes of the 22nd of February 2023 Community and Services meeting be confirmed as a true and correct record. A mover, Councillor Guy. A seconder, Councillor Tucker. Gee, you're on fire. All those in favour? Opposed? Carried. Right. Just before we get on to item number one, I just want to say a few words, mainly for anybody who might be watching this later on or as we're doing it at the moment. Just around I was 3 days here in the Upper Clutha because we're here in Wanaka. I was here for 3 days experiencing warbirds over Wanaka, and I just want to give an accolade to the Upper Clutha community and other parts of our community that assisted in showcasing that event over 3 stunning days to the rest of the world. I guess I had a bit of an inside look at what goes on and the quality and what all the visitors to our region saw. But what it did was it just focused everything on the Upper Clutha and on Wanaka. And when you, I don't know whether any of you were there, but if you witnessed what we saw in the skies, from flying skill and precision from some of the world's best to the stunning backdrop that is Wanaka, and especially on the Friday night, the free gig for the community and anybody else who was in town, thousands down on the waterfront. What a great advert for our community. So Wanaka, thank you, thank you, thank you. Rightio, we'll get on to item number one. And this is the Queenstown Bay Foreshore Reserve Management Plan and Amendment. We do have council staff. Jeannie, good morning, how are you? There is a bit of reading in here. I won't read it all out in terms of what's in front of us. We all have copies in our laptops, but I'll just read the first couple of sentences. The report's author is Jeannie Galavasi, Principal Parks and Reserves Planner. The purpose of this report is to consider a minor amendment to the existing Queenstown Bay Foreshore Reserve Management Plan 2016 to clearly align with the Queenstown Lakes District Council Outdoor Dining and Public Space Policy 2024. Jeannie, anything you would like to add before we open up to councillors if there are any questions?
Morena, thank you. You will have the new outdoor dining policy coming to a full council meeting in May, and so this is obviously not to present that new policy, but we're just doing some pre-work to help streamline and align our different policies and plans, which is kind of the whole point of doing the outdoor or the former tables and chairs policy review. It was a bit clunky and not very administratively effective. It was effective, but obviously there was a few things that created a few inefficiencies. So that's why I'm here today. Any questions if you have any?
Great. Councillors, we'll open it up to see whether you have any questions that you may like to ask. Councillor Guy.
Thank you. Through the chair, just a couple if I may, please. Jeannie, so zone 3, and we talk about existing restaurants with the bathhouse there.
Yes.
My question's probably around the hotels in that neighbour, that area, and my questions are around events and other things that may add temporary tables. And I reflect back to the early 90s, I think the hotel had a marquee erected and reserved space for a wedding that did sort of impact visual amenity of that space. Does the bylaw look at treatment for events from either of those, or would that become a whole just event license?
That would be a separate event license. So the outdoor dining policy, and you know, is to do with existing kind of premises that have current cafe, restaurant, or a licensed premise. So they are a permanent premise as opposed to an event, and that would need a license under the Reserves Act. So we've been quite careful to just recognise what is currently happening day to day, and also have the wording in there where appropriate. So we will reserve a separate process for those one-off ones that are sort of currently already happening.
So those existing establishments, could they add more than their current table and chairs into those spaces, or is it really limited according to what's already existing?
It is limited, and again, this was we haven't done a blanket across the district. Or if you've got a premise next to a reserve, you can have an easy pathway. This is just going, well, what is actually has been happening over the last 5, 10, 15 years? It is just those areas around Ursel Park and the bathhouse, and recognising it's just where recreation reserve land or reserve land abuts the premise, which is quite infrequent. The road reserve, like Marine Parade, that's directly subject to the new policy.
And that brings me to my excuse me, last question, which was around the fact that this is Queenstown Bay and we've identified one other area in Wanaka. Just considering Arrowtown, and perhaps would this lead us to any precedent? I know we've got a couple of longer term redevelopments that would border reserve there, potentially around Night and Day, Copeland School area, Bendrix ice cream shed area, Dishery Chinese reserve area. Does any of this look towards establishments that aren't yet established? What's the precedent that we're implying with?
So those are subject to the Arrowtown reserves, omnibus reserve management plan. Currently, if there was a new premise established, then they would be subject to a separate Reserves Act licence, because it's a new activity that isn't anticipated. Whereas this particular scenario around Queenstown Bay, those are existing activities primarily that are already happening, and there is mention of them in the reserve management plan, but it's just not really clear enough to kind of, it's a bit too much of a grey area. Do they need 2 licenses? What do they need? Whereas that scenario, because it's a new activity and if it's not covered by the management plan, then they would be subject to an assessment under that management plan and probably a notified reserves license, or we'd look to amend that plan as well to align it with the policy.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else with a question at all for staff? Councillor Wong, isn't it?
Morning, Jenny. Just looking at zone 2, and it's quite a high sort of commercial traffic area and pedestrian area now. I know that's sort of not the focus of this report. Just wondering, is there anything that potentially could be enabled in the future for that space? Or is it just too busy for us to even consider like a table and chairs policy or an event hosted in that spot?
So through you, Chair, can you just clarify what you mean by enabled in the future?
Yeah,
Different activities or more tables and chairs?
more tables and chairs
Yeah.
where they don't currently exist, I think, in zone 2, because it's only really around those restaurants right at the very tip of zone 2, isn't it?
Yeah, so there is Atlas, which just sits on the other side of that Seymour Wharf development.
Yes.
And then there are, most of the premises are already restaurants or cafes, so it's largely at capacity. However, there could be Macpac or Partridge Jewellers have just moved into that space. So there is the possibility that there could be new premises setting up.
Yeah. Specifically where I was thinking was more St. Omer Wharf area, where there currently isn't much activity there.
I think St. Omer Wharf is that where Southern Discoveries are.
Yes, correct. Yeah, where the Aeropo Centre is in the fuel area.
Yeah, it would have to be a pretty, I think we've kind of covered it off by addressing it where it's currently existing. Yeah, we're very aware that this area has a lot of pressure on it. Yeah, so zone 2, the proposed policy is allowed outdoor dining licenses directly associated with immediately adjoining restaurant, cafe and licensed premises where appropriate.
So Atlas is probably the only one that could encroach further towards the north.
Yes, so that where appropriate is just still enables that assessment because it is a very, very busy area through there. And the new policy does have wording around ensuring pedestrian flow and all of those sorts of things. And the whole, and I don't want to go into the new policy too much, but it is really improving council processes in terms of monitoring and enforcement. It's due for some clearer wording and some tidying up and some new processes. And there's a lot of work that's gone into that space as well and behind the scenes as to how we're going to manage these.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, I do anticipate that we probably will get some out of left field to sort of say, okay, we operate over here, can we use that public space?
Yes.
And those will be looked at very, very closely.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other questions at all? Councillor Bruce?
Through the chair, of course. I'm mindful, particularly from our experience here in Wanaka, when some of these very high traffic areas, even though the table and chairs license areas are defined, they encroach and restrict the pathways through. So I think it's very, very important to police, I guess, the licenses, but also provide good wide thoroughfares to enable people. There's mums with buggies and older people that are probably less cognitively able. So I guess it will come up in the wider table and chairs license, but it's certainly very important to provide good wide thoroughfare space through these areas.
Yeah, 100%. And again, that's been part of the need for an improved process to recognise that some of that cumulative encroachment. The only Wanaka premise that had a tables and chairs license previously on reserve was the Spades Ale House. I think they've actually pulled that back now. They don't have anything on reserve land, but again, that will be subject to the relevant Wanaka reserve management plans and be assessed if anything new comes up for that.
Thanks.
Thank you, councillor. Any other questions? Jenny, I know it's not really part of this as such, but the new policy when it comes out, will the committee get along with that in draft form at all, or what's the process around that to get our eyes over it?
Yeah, I assume that will go to full council.
Yeah.
I will need to check with that team that's coming through the property team as to what their process is for that.
Right. No more questions? Rightio, let's head to the vote. The Community and Services Committee have been asked to, 1, note the contents of this report, and 2, recommend that the council amend the Queenstown Bay Foreshore Reserves Management Plan 2016 to include a new policy that allows for outdoor dining licences in areas where they are already occurring, specifically around Earnshaw Park and the bathhouse. There's a whole host of other reading there, but it's all in front of us. So we just need a mover for that agenda item. Councillor Wong, a seconder. Councillor Guy, all those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you for your work. Anybody else? Agenda item number 2. Tazi, good morning to you. The new seat and memorial plaque request in honour of Jim Ryan at the Arrowtown Library. The report's author is Tazi Kunches, Parks Officer, Cemeteries and Heritage, and she's going to present the report. The purpose of this report is to consider approving the installation of a new seat to replace an existing seat located outside the Arrowtown Library, followed by placement of a memorial plaque on the seat for Jim Ryan. And before we get into anything that you'd like to say, Tazi, Councillor Guy would just like to say a few words.
Thank you, through the chair and everybody, and perhaps in respect of Mr. Ryan's family, if listening, I just wanted to take a moment to remember Jim and his incredible contributions to our community and to our village. As an Arrowtown Kawerau Ward representative, I probably sit in a quandary position because Jim was very anti the loss of an independent Arrowtown councillor representative and was a champion for keeping the village voice very active. In fact, Jim called a meeting to discuss the loss of the single Arrowtown ward councillor, and half the village turned up, 3/4 of the village, I think legend has it, to the pub. And such was the pulling power of Mr. Ryan, where he could table a problem, and he really was concerned that Arrowtown might be gobbled up by the Queenstown scene and lose its identity, and really wanted there to be councillors who go well beyond their job description to find out the concerns of issues that were in the village. And that was one of the reasons why I stood, was that I could see we were moving to a wider ward focus, and really wanted to respect the voices like Jim that had been in the community before me, and honoured the history meets nature side of Arrowtown and all that brings. But perhaps the anecdotal bits that I love remembering most about Jim, an incredible engineer and inventor, a lamb and chicken farmer. He invented a chicken plucker and used to put little lambs into the plastic bags that chickens, he used to make little vests to keep the lambs warm from the plastic chicken bags. And such an inventor that he was well known for his radio controlled switch in his car when driving up. He was a cribby in Arrowtown, and when he'd drive from Invercargill, he had a radio controlled switch that he could flick to heat his hot tub before he arrived. So you know, a real legend. I can't wait to sit on Jim's seat, and send my love and thoughts to his wife Irene and his children, Sean, Grant, Craig, Engineering Entrepreneurs of the Year in 2014 as well. So a real legacy in our community, and his 9 grandchildren. So I really can't wait to sit on Jim's bench and reflect on those concerns and issues that are of our village, and promise him that Arrowtown will not be gobbled up by the Queenstown identity. So thanks for letting me have that little moment to remember Jim. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Guy. Yes, just to back up Lisa's comments there, certainly in my tenure with council, come across Jim numerous times, got to know him quite well, and he was certainly a pretty fierce advocate for Arrowtown and what he wanted to see, and he had great mana within the community. And also I attended his farewell as an elected member out at Jeff Clears out of Morgan Ferry, and you know, it was a marvelous occasion, and he was a wonderful man, as you say, Lisa. You know, a pretty unique individual. So it's nice that. Thank you for your words. Just backing up what you said here, Lisa. Right, let's get on to business. Tarzan, over to you. Anything you'd like to say?
Is anticlimactic.
We close the meeting now.
I mean, yeah, basically just on behalf of the Arrowtown Charitable Trust and the Lakes District Museum, thank you for the preemptive consideration of this report in advance so that the family could come over Easter and celebrate the seat being installed. Really, I have nothing to add. You've said everything in terms of perhaps the criteria that this gentleman meets, he more than meets it. And it was a good chance for us to update a piece of furniture, in the most practical sense, update a piece of furniture that then is in line with the rest of the stylization and aesthetics of the historic heritage precinct in Arrowtown. So really all I had to add.
Any councillors with a question at all? Just no. Okay. Rightio, in front of us, councillors, that the Community and Services Committee, 1, note the contents of this report, and 2, approve the seat and memorial plaque installation for Jim Ryan. The seat is located outside the Arrowtown Library under the veranda along the northern/Buckingham Street side of the building, which we see in attachment A. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guy. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Wong. All those in favour? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.